Alien Romulus. You know, it's like 1,000 degrees in here, and I'm just realizing now I'm wearing the same shirt as last time. Should I change? I mean, it's clean. I've since washed it. Nah.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Alien Romulus follows a group of young people desperate to escape their lives as slave laborers on a colony planet. When they discover a Weyland-Yutani station just outside of the planet's orbit, they see an opportunity to use its equipment to leave the system. And they would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling aliens. There's a lot of things I liked about this movie, and an almost equal amount of things I did not like. And I know everything nowadays needs to be either the best thing ever or total garbage and nothing in between. But I'm gonna talk about the good things and the bad things, and then you decide whether or not you want to see it. Okay? Hold on to your butts. First of all, the set and production design of this movie is bonkers. I loved all the tiny little details, and you can tell a lot of thought went into this. The people who worked on the visual effects really cared. A good example is right at the start of the movie when we see a beautiful model of a ship. And it's not just that, it's about the smaller details as well, like how on the colony planet they don't have any sunlight, so instead there's simulated sunlight everywhere you go. I guess the Weyland-Yutani Corporation doesn't want its workers to go insane, they just want to work them to death. I absolutely love all the old school effects in this film. We have some amazing looking models, like I said, incredibly detailed sets, and of course, lots of practical face huggers and xenomorphs made by some of the people who worked on the older movies. So that's already a huge win. And I really enjoyed the first act of the film. I thought it was original and clever and surprising, and later in the movie there's a couple of sequences that were pretty creative as well. Our main protagonists are a young woman named Rain and her synthetic surrogate brother Andy, who are played by David Johnson and Kaylee Spaney. Their relationship is very interesting and by far the best part of the story. These characters have motivation, but more importantly, you feel sympathy, so you actually care what happens to them. Both actors did an outstanding job. I've liked Kaylee Spaney ever since she played Lyndon in Alex Garland's Devs. Definitely check that one out if you haven't seen it yet. It's one of my favorite miniseries. And I have a feeling we're gonna see a lot more of David Johnson in the future. I really liked him in this movie. So I thought everything was pretty great, up until about a half hour into the movie, somewhere around the second act, where the movie takes a hard left into Fan Service City and the Uncanny Valley. And I can't go into it without spoiling anything, so you know what that means. So the group of young people is after cryopods, which they need to travel to another planet. They also need Andy because he's a Weyland-Yutani android and he's the only one who can open certain doors at the facility. But at some point they need special clearance. So they reconnect another droid on the station that's been ripped apart. And that's when they introduce the likeness of Ian Holm as an android named Rook. And it looks terrible, just awful. This robot introduces some Prometheus elements to the story, so what I don't understand is, why not ask Michael Fassbender to come back and play an android modeled after David? I mean, that story element isn't great to begin with, but at least it wouldn't look terrible because, you know, Michael Fassbender is still very much alive. So after that scene, you think, okay, that's over and done with. We're done with the fan service. But remember, every Alien movie has a secondary villain separate from the aliens. In Alien, it was Ash. In Aliens, it was Burke. In Alien 3, it was Weyland. And in both Prometheus and Covenant, it was David. So deepfake Ian Holm continues to pop up throughout the entire film. And it's really annoying. Just when you start to forget about terrible looking Ian Holm, he starts popping up at random computer screens. It happens like 5 times. And it's not just that. The android Rook then continues to spew out exposition and introduces the black goo from Prometheus. Now, I'm not a fan of those prequels. I thought Prometheus was a gorgeous looking movie, but story-wise, it was a giant mess. so putting the goo as a plot point in this film only made matters worse, especially when you hear the android's reason for creating the goo. The original film had a simple but very effective premise, and that film is just as old as I am, and it still holds up today because it's a near perfect horror film. But like I've mentioned before, there are some sequences in Romulus that are really good ideas, like what if you shot an alien in 0G? And they do something very interesting with Andy the android's module, which changes his personality, which in turn changes the dynamic between him and his sister. And there's a really tense scene where they have to walk across a hallway that reminded me a lot of the movie Sneakers. But Romulus pretty much loses all tension during the second act because all those wonderful little moments are being held together by a very weak script. Not to mention all the fan service moments. There's so many of them and they feel gratuitous. And look, I understand paying homage to other films, but there's a correct way to do it and there's a cringe way to do it. Copy-pasting direct quotes from older, better movies is not creative. It's really awkward. Almost every franchise does it these days, and I'm really tired of it. Here are just some of the quotes this movie felt the need to rip off.
I can't lie to you about your chances, but you have my sympathies.
I prefer the term artificial person myself.
Busy little creatures, huh?
Get away from her, you bitch!
This is Ripley, last survivor of the Nostromo, signing off.
And that's not all. Then there's all the visual references, like Rain copying Ripley by getting into a spacesuit in the exact same way during the exact same circumstances. Or when someone explains to her how the pulse rifle works. Or that one shot that's in the trailer that's directly from Alien 3, which looks cool, but it doesn't serve a purpose. In Alien 3, that shot served a purpose because the xenomorph wouldn't attack her. In this, it's just about aesthetics. And it just feels very lazy, which is so unfortunate because the entire production team did such an amazing job on all those wonderful effects. But I've said it many times before, writing is everything. It doesn't matter how good your movie looks, or how many practical effects you have, or how much star power you put in the cast. If the script isn't good, you've lost my interest. Personally, I'm looking forward to Alien Earth, which is written by Noah Hawley, who also wrote the Fargo series. I'm willing to bet that that show is going to be great, just because he's such a talented writer. So, do I recommend Alien Romulus? No, not really. I'm not saying it's terrible. There are plenty of things I liked about it, but I just don't care, and I will probably never watch this again. If you've never seen the original movie, watch that one instead, because that is a real masterpiece. Alien Romulus is just pieces of other masterpieces. Or maybe just watch Sneakers again. Sneakers is great. I know, it's very sad to be disappointed, but this movie reminded me of something. It's a very old and wise Japanese saying. Yeah, I can read that.